As a teenager, I collected comic books and football cards. I got really obsessed with pricing guides and buying first editions and mint collectibles. It's like a fun hobby, most definitely. Somewhere in my mom's attic right now is a lockbox with Mylar wrapped first printings of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issues 1 through 5, as well as the Tick issues 1 and 2, and near mint rookie cards for Emmett Smith, Barry Sanders, and Bo Jackson. The thing about collectibles is that even if the pricing guide says they're valued at, say, $100, they're actually only worth what someone is willing to pay for them. I once traded in the 3 Frank Miller Dark Knight issues valued at the time at $25 each, but I traded them into a comic book shop for $10 each because that's what the comic store owner was willing to pay. I made a slight profit, but not near as much as I thought I would. Some of the problem came from the fact that the pricing guides reflected how much a comic book store can sell those issues for. So a comic book store will want to buy them from a regular collector for less than that. Also, I was like 14 years old, so it was easy to take advantage of in a negotiation. And $30 wasn't as good as $75, but it's pretty good money to a high school freshman in 1989. So I took it. If I were an older man, maybe I'd get a better deal. If I were non-white or queer or a girl or an old woman, maybe even less than I got as a teenager boy. So, hold on. So much of what we're paid either through barter, sales, or salary is dictated by who we are and how we appear to others. This is a very small point when it comes to this week's film, Onibaba. I'm thinking specifically of the juxtaposition of scenes where the older mother sells stolen armor and weapons to the shopkeeper for a single bag of food. Later, when the young man Hachi returns from the war and does the same, he receives 3 bags of food plus some sake, and then also just grabs some quail off the wall or chicken or whatever that was, and is like, I'm taking these too. It's a much larger point, culturally speaking, about the disparity in pay and ultimately respect we give to those who have something to offer us. Onibaba definitely takes note of gender as well as socioeconomic status when it comes to the level of respect and capital given return. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Did you ever collect anything like comics, cards, Hummel figures, Pogs?
Oh my, no.
NFTs?
Oh my God. I think as close as I got was collecting like playbills of Broadway shows that I went to go see.
Oh yeah.
Which was not many. But like maybe like 5 or 7, something like that. But I knew people that had like that, grew up around New York City going to Broadway their entire life that had entire boxes of like every single playbill of every single show or every single ticket stub.
Yeah.
I think there was a time when I did collect movie ticket stubs.
Yep.
And I like kept them in my wallet for some reason, as if I would like need them in my day-to-day life in my 14, 15-year-old wallet. Back when you actually got movie ticket stubs.
Mm-hmm.
And but then they just sort of faded over time. So I was like, okay, I just have like a stack of paper in my wallet for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
A couple years ago, I grabbed a book off of my shelf that I hadn't read in more than 20 years. Thought, I'm going to reread this book. Okay. And I grabbed it and I picked it up and there was already a bookmark in it, just wedged into there. And then I was like, what is this bookmark? It's very wide. And it was a plane ticket back when we had airplane tickets.
Yeah.
For American Airlines DFW to Tampa Bay, and it was from summer of 2001. And I remembered I was like, that's when I had a girlfriend who lived in Tampa, and I had flown to see her. And I used to do the same of like collect ticket stubs, whether they were for a concert, Broadway show, even movies. And I guess I had been using this, but I was like, I sat in like, I was like 34E, which means I was buying this shit off of Travelocity. I got a cheap flight sitting in the middle seat right next to the bathrooms at the back. Yeah.
But you had a good book that you apparently stopped reading in the 90s or in 2001.
Yeah, in 2001. Yeah. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I went through a phase a couple years ago where I was rereading stuff I hadn't read since I was young. I think it was Cloud Atlas is what it was.
Okay.
That may not jive with the timeline of me having that book for, I don't know when that book came out, but I want to say it was late 90s, early 2000, whatever it was. It was just found this old ticket stub and I was like, that's crazy. I just even forgot that airlines had tickets
I
at
still
one
get
point.
tickets. I still get paper tickets,
I'll get
especially
the
if I have multi-destination, if I have like 3 different,
yes,
so that way I can kind of like check them off as I
yeah.
go. And also because I find the apps sometimes will freeze up and
Mm-hmm.
you are SOL.
Yep. I will occasionally do the paper boarding pass when I'm checking luggage. So like, do you want to print
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
And same sort of thing of like sometimes I'm like, I already put my phone in my backpack and
Yeah.
it's just easier to go
That
through
shit is on
security.
airplane mode.
Yeah.
I've got the music queued up that I want to listen to, and that is it.
Yeah.
Also, because I did get some guff one time leaving LaGuardia Airport, and somebody like actually asked me to check my luggage tag to my luggage check claim out in the taxi stand line, and I was like, I already took that off. This is mine.
LaGuardia
Uh,
still does this.
oh,
I mean,
really?
I haven't been through LaGuardia since last year,
The
but
new LaGuardia.
it's still LaGuardia still does this, and it's the only airport I've been to that makes you check your baggage tag. JFK doesn't.
Yeah.
Other Queens airport doesn't do
Yep.
this, but JFK will or LaGuardia will make you check that. Well, speaking of airplanes and technology, we watched
Uh-huh.
Onibaba from
Yes, which has nothing
1964.
to do with any. This is prehistoric shit.
This is I had to look this up. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time on the history unless you did some deep dive research into
I
this.
did
And we're just
not.
going to talk about the film. But from what I understand, is this takes place in the mid 15th century. This is
Yeah,
feudal Japan, I
feudal.
believe.
Yep.
Uh,
Like I think of it as very Shakespearean.
mhm,
Like everybody's fighting everybody.
mhm.
Little feudal warlords, and there's two certain there's two emperors, and everybody's it's Game of Thrones time, y'all.
It really is. It absolutely is. And there's a real sorry to bring up Brecht again. We can call this the random Brecht and horror podcast number
The
9, but
random Patty Lapone Brecht
yeah,
horror
yep.
podcast.
I but bringing up Brecht again, there's a very Mother Courage vibe to
Oh
this
yeah.
too.
Oh, absolutely.
So we begin with the hole,
I love it. The
deep
pit.
and dark. It is darkness since ancient times, and then we get suddenly Onibaba, parentheses, demon woman.
Yes.
I love this intro. As we were talking right before the show started, I was in New York City last night and I drove back late, so I started this movie at like 10:30
Oh dear.
last night after lots of walking around the city and
Yeah.
long drive home. And so I was sort of in the mindset of like, man, I wish we were watching dumb kids being chased with an axe in 1980 instead
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
this late night watching. But this opening really grabbed me. It's so beautiful with the
Yeah.
wave, the tumultuous wheat just blowing in the wind,
Just that grass, man. Yeah.
and the matching like almost like frenetic jazz
Mm-hmm.
feel to the music. The music, the wind, and the wheat are all tumultuous
Yeah.
very instantly, and
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie is so beautiful, but it's definitely a film you have to lean into.
Mm-hmm.
It does not give up its treasures right away or on the surface. Like you really have to like kind of hold out until the end. I mean, like nobody says a single word until like 20 minutes into this film. If it lets you know like just how slow burn this is going to be.
Yeah, I believe it was I wrote it down somewhere. I think it's 16 minutes before somebody says a single word, and then they
Yeah.
say literally a single word.
Yeah. I love it when movies do that.
I do
I think
too.
it's so like you find that in a lot of European cinema, a lot of French cinema. I think there's even in The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, there's even a scene in which two lovers are speaking that have not had a chance to speak to each other the entire like half the movie. And then when they finally do get a chance to talk, they're like, it's almost like we're in a film and the lovers have nothing to say to each other. Are you worried we have nothing to say? But I love it. It's like that building up that anticipation of who are these characters, who are these people, and learning about characters and the environment and the pace and the tone of a film before without like pre-language
Yeah.
is like so fascinating to me
Yeah.
because quite a bit happens in those 16 minutes
It really
that
does.
really kind of preps you for this film.
Yeah, and I love. I think there's probably 1.5 million college papers written on the relationship between this movie and the Onin War and
Oh yeah.
the whatever was happening in Japan at the time and the history, et cetera, et cetera. But I sort of just love being dropped into a world I don't know at all
Yeah.
and sort of piecing it together that what's happening is ultimately peripheral.
Yeah.
You could do a deep historical dive into the accuracy of this or what it's representing, where this took place, et cetera, et cetera. But I love that these first two people we see are these men that are in armor of what looks to be hundreds of year old armor,
It's like samurai armor. Yeah.
samurai armor, walking through wheat fields that is as high as an elephant's eye. And they are clearly wounded. They are coming out of a battle, possibly deserters, because that becomes somewhat of a theme.
Yeah.
That they are, helping each other through this field, and then truly a 1980s horror movie device, knives from the wheat come out and get them both.
Like Children of the Corn ain't got shit on this movie.
So good. And then what we see emerge from the wheat field are not like masked killers, but simply an older woman and a younger woman. And then they quietly and deliberately, with intensity, like this is they're doing it like their job, because it is their job.
It is their job.
They are stripping these men down, taking all of their clothes, their belongings, their weapons, and then dragging their bodies, their stripped down bodies, to the hole.
Not the hole, Jeffrey.
And dumping them into the hole.
Not the hole that's been around since the beginning of time, in which we put all of our repressed and the things we don't want to deal with anymore. No.
The pit of fun.
Oh my God. Listen, is this skeleton pit on Zillow? Because honestly, if you don't have a skeleton pit on your property, I can't even look at this.
The thing about renting a hole in the ground is like the broker's fees are just too much.
Oh, really?
Like it's 15% of annual rent.
It's like you might as well just buy it. Yeah, you just might as well buy it.
I'm like, you didn't do anything. I found the hole. Why do I have to pay you $5,000?
I just kept thinking, I was like, man, if it doesn't have a skeleton pit on it, I on property, like how am I even going to Airbnb this place out?
Yeah. Is there an in-unit washer dryer?
Yes, but no skeleton pit. I'm sorry. In which you can throw your darndest enemies.
So
go ahead. Like I kept thinking, like, the way these women are stripping these warriors, these dead warriors down, it's like watching someone clean and gut crabs. Or like a lobster. Like, and it's actually kind of funny because the mother, she even has like a crab emblem on her. And it's like as soon as I thought, she's like, man, have you ever seen somebody like pull apart a crab and like crack it and like open and get all the meat out? It's like watching that with that level of, like you said, intensity and deliberateness. And I was like, oh, and she even has coincidentally has a crab on her shirt.
I think Fisher's is such a great way of talking about this too, because we are talking about they live close to a river. This is probably we see a fish get caught in this movie. This is obviously a thing wherein this is part of the industry. And I was thinking about watching people gut and clean fish in rapid succession, right? Like butchers or something like that. It's intense work, and you want to do it quickly because you ain't got time. Like, we're not here to enjoy this. We're here to get this job done.
Yeah, these dead samurai smell like shit. And we are hungry.
Yes. There was no like native aluminum free, paraben free deodorant sticks back then.
No. That shit. No crystal, no hippie crystal deodorant.
Crystal deodorant. That's the other one.
I had a friend who tried to do the crystal deodorant thing in college, and we had to have an intervention with her.
Yeah, I did crystal for a little while, and it wasn't great. You could smell yourself through that. And the thing about crystal is the hard pack crystal, because they have the roll on, but then they have the time. But then they also make the kind that is 100% just a salt lick inside of a plastic container, and you have to like hold it under the sink to wet it
Oh,
and then rub it on your arms, and then in your medicine cabinet it develops like a little salt ring at the
oh,
base. It's
yum.
ridiculous. And then you
Mm.
still smell like armpit.
Yourself. You smell like
Yum.
yourself.
My natural scent is very good though, Cecil. Okay, so they get back to their I really appreciated not only the way in which they work, but when they get back to their hut, the way
Mhm.
that they eat,
Yeah.
drink, and sleep voraciously.
Oh, yeah.
There's an urgency to all
Silently.
three of those things.
It's funny. Listen, if you don't like these two things, don't watch this movie. But
Mhm.
if you like watching fields of grass
Oh,
set
dude.
to kind of like abstract jazz,
Mhm.
or watching people eat silently and ferociously, then this movie is not for you.
Yeah, if you don't like those things, GTFO.
Yeah. But I fucking love it because
Do
it's
too.
like, without saying a single goddamn word, just watching, them like drink water or like shove rice in their mouth after, a long day's worth of hard work, stripping and killing samurai. You understand everything you need to know, because
Mhm.
these two women are not fucking around. You know?
The absolute mom is 100%
Oh
not
my
fucking
god.
around.
I love her. I love that we got to this movie by rolling Bad Mom, Bad Dad. And listen, we got
Mm.
ourselves a doozy. Yeah, Nobuko Ottawa is the mother. And listen, she has a face and she has like eyes that will literally burn into your soul.
Those two women's eye makeup is super on point. Like the little, I don't know what you call that, but the
The bat
little
wing.
point. Yeah, the bat wing is so
Yeah.
good.
It's also so 60s as well.
Yes,
I did
totally.
notice a couple of like kind of cute 60s bikini tan lines on the daughter.
Yes.
I was like, oh, bikini babes out.
Yeah, and the makeup and the mask work in this movie is fantastic as
Yeah.
well. So they're now going to see Ushi. This is our first
Yeah.
word of the movie. Ushi.
Yeah.
When they go to deliver to Ushi, the basically the has the shopkeep, right? He
Who lives in a cave.
he lives in a fucking cave. He's gross as hell. He says he looks through all their swords and armor and things like that, and it's like he essentially says this is junk.
Mm-hmm.
Kyoto just burned down. The
Mm-hmm.
emperor escaped. There's no more major battles. It's all just skirmishes. There's no need for this stuff. Here's a bag of food.
Yeah.
And I love that it's not specific what the food is. It is just bag of food. Like they don't say rice.
Oh, I
They
think in
they
mine, I think in the translation I saw, it says millet.
millet. Okay.
So it's like a seed, it's like a
Okay.
grain. Yeah.
Okay, great. That makes sense. I was like, they
Just
don't.
bag of food. It's kind of like in video games where like you have one food unit.
Yep, yep.
But he also
So,
makes it very apparent that he has more food,
mhm.
but he's only going to give her one because it's just junk.
Yeah.
But he says, listen, if you ever want to sleep with me, there's another bag of food in it for you.
She's like, why don't you fuck yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get back to their hut, and mom and daughter-in-law, as we'll learn, that's their relationship. And these women have no names. They're
Yeah.
listed in the credits as older woman, younger woman.
Mm-hmm.
Probably just call them mom and daughter.
Yeah.
But they return back. They're eating their millet stew, and we see it's this man, this bearded, bedraggled, but not unappealing looking man who's very rough around the edges, personality wise. Comes out of the river, climbs up to their hut, and is like, I'm hungry. Give me some food.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn this guy is a soldier friend of mom's son.
Mm-hmm.
And he and her son had gone off to war together, but only this man returned.
Yeah.
He sort of explains, listen, hey, so it's crazy out there because we went off to fight with one army.
Yep.
There's now a whole other emperor that showed up that is claiming emperors. There's two emperors. We just follow the commander. Our army was taken over by this other army, so now I'm fighting for this thing. And we're like, whatever. We get into this horrific battle. Everyone's dying left and right. Me and your son, Kishi.
Yeah.
We were in this battle. Everyone around us is dying. We're just like, you know what? Let's play dead.
Yeah.
And we played dead. No one's the wiser. The armies go off to fight someplace else, and we're like, fuck this. We're deserting. We're living in the mountains. We're going to find food. And unfortunately, in trying to steal some food, some farmers came after us, and they stabbed Kishi to death, or beat Kishi to death.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but this millet, good stuff. I love it.
Delicious.
Could use like, have you tried this with like cumin? Like just a little, like toast the cumin seed first.
Oh, yum.
So good.
Do you believe his story, Jeffrey?
I did believe his story. I did not think of him as, I thought of him more as like deadbeat guy rather than a swindler, a full on like I murdered my friend to get to his wife. I do believe his story because Occam's razor is like, that sounds like probably a lot of people at this time in this war probably being like, fuck this war. I got to figure out how to get how
do I get home? Where am I?
Where am I? Can I go back to my family? That sort of thing. And that's what I took this as. I don't know. How about you?
It's interesting because this tale that he spins for these two women, he obviously the mother is like, where's my son? Where's Kichi? Where is Kichi? Where the fuck is Kichi? Like every time he pauses, but he like spins this yarn of the tale of battle, and it kind of becomes this like Mark Twain, almost like tall tale in a way. Like it's like he really like it is masterfully written how he sort of lures it in and like sets the stage of all the bullshit that's going on out there and just how like lawless and everybody's dying left and right. And so it establishes this thing of like, listen, people are dying all over the place. And it's not until the very end that he's like, yeah, a village came out and beat your son to death because we tried to steal food. However, we both know that, Kichi and Hachi are like on the road. They're trying to get back home. And who knows what Hachi's motivations, what could have happened on the road home, knowing that he has like a beautiful young wife at home and they live right next door and all that. I mean, it is one of those things. There's so much doubt and ambiguity in this film. And it's really like, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It has more to do with what do these two women believe?
Yeah.
Like, can he convince them? Can his tall tale be so epic and so grand that he buries the lead that this woman's son and this woman's husband is dead?
Yeah.
And he had totally nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I definitely feel that he probably abandoned his friend in the same way he abandoned the war. He saw we're getting taken. I don't know that he's like, no, and stepped in front of anybody. I don't know that he tried to fight them off. I think he saw dude get hit in the head with a mallet and we're like, you know what?
Out.
Fuck this shit. I'm out.
Like it's truly like that makes sense. Like for this character. So it's like, he didn't try to save this guy, but he definitely ran the fuck away.
And he's certainly an opportunist, like I think a lot of people in this type of situation become, especially when you talk about peasants being forced to go to war.
Yep. Again, like, very Shakespearean.
Very Shakespearean. He makes the comment, he said that, it's so horrible right now because everyone is starving, even the soldiers, because they took all the farmers to go fight.
Yeah.
and there's no one left to plow the field, so there
Yeah.
is no food. All of the food is dying and going to waste and becoming useless. So like nobody has really thought this whole thing through, so we're all forced to just scrounge for what we can get.
Yep.
And
Also, I mean, he's dressed as a monk. Like he said, he
he's killed a
encountered
priest.
he killed a monk.
Yeah.
And he's got the beads, and he's like, people are just nicer to monks on the road, so it makes it easier. And he's like, ha ha ha, how clever am I?
And mom can't judge him for this because she's
Yeah.
off killing people for money to buy millet, to
Yeah.
buy food units from killing, wounded soldiers in the giant wheat field. And it all sort of just makes sense, but she clearly does not trust him. Like she's a little bit like, she's a little hypocritical. She's
Yeah.
needling him for all of his potential lies. But when he asks them, so wait, how do you get this food? Like, how are you're stealing, right? Like
She's like, we manage.
and they won't admit to being thieves. And I don't think he's trying to judge them. I think he's like, I just want to know we're all on the same page here, right? Like,
yeah. Like, what have you been up to?
Uh-huh.
There's another theme in this opening scene, because this is kind of like the flurry of words after like 16 minutes of quiet, right? There's also this theme, and I love it when scary plays and movies do this. It's very Macbeth, in which it's like, darkness at noon, a cow was given birth to a horse, like just like topsy-turvy, up is down, down is up, the seas are boiling.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is already the elements of a supernatural theme underneath it all, but not overtly. It's just whispers, just like you hear rumors of crazy supernatural things are going on, because when the state is not right with itself, when nature isn't right with itself, everything fucks up. Yeah. And I love that supernatural seed is planted in Act 1, so that way by the time we get to the cursed mask in Act 3, it's already like, you're like, yeah, duh,
of course.
Like, of course there's magic cursed objects floating around. Makes total sense.
Yeah. When nothing makes sense, we have to make it make sense. And sometimes that's why we have gods, right? That's why we have demons and spirits.
And like, it just, if foul is fair and fair is foul, like it just really reminds me of the beginning of Macbeth. This, again, war-torn country, up is down, down is up.
Yeah.
Anything could happen, and you could probably get away with it too.
Yeah. So mom is very clearly suspicious of this boy, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, she's mad that her son didn't come home.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting about I want my son to come home is there is in the 20th and 21st century concept of parents, there's a very different relationship since the sort of the post-industrial revolution. The relationship between parent and child has changed so much. Neil Postman has an incredible book called The Disappearance of Childhood, wherein the first half of the book is actually called The Invention of Childhood.
Sure.
And the way in which we developed this 20th century concept of save the children, protect the children. The children are so important. And in a lot of ways they are, right? Like, this comes out of industrial age, wherein 10-year-olds are like getting fingers crushed in printing presses, or whatever.
And like being taught of gin to, like, for their pay and shit.
Yeah. But we're dealing with mid-15th century feudal Japan, wherein we don't see children in this movie, but the idea of your son going off to war is horrible, because, like, I need somebody here, one, to protect us, and two, to like help us gather things and feed ourselves.
Like, work. You need actual work. Like, listen, I could be gathering all this water, beating this laundry, pounding these roots.
Yeah.
Or we could be doing it in half the time. Yeah.
My grandfather on my dad's side fought in World War II, and he enlisted. He was not, he enlisted in 2 stints. He did 2 tours in Europe and in Africa, and came back home and was essentially told to go away by his family, because they had upstate New York dairy farm kind of above Albany.
Okay.
And he was sort of like excluded from the family business at that point because you went off to war. We have a very different relationship to veterans than we had
Oh my
70 years
God.
ago.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but it
Yeah.
makes some sense when you think about the context of this film that I, I run a farm. Like, you went off
Yeah.
to war. That has fuck all to do with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We have cows to milk.
Yeah.
We have millet to reap. We have things that we need done. And you went off to war because it's sort
Your
of like
patriotic notions of freedom and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the equivalent now of not like going to work for your family business because you want to go backpacking in Europe.
Yeah.
So she's really mad at Hachi for not bringing her son back, not protecting her son. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And Hachi's like, look, I caught a giant fucking fish. I'm here to help. You fuck yourself with that fish.
Yeah. And it's also, it becomes, listen, this movie is so horny. This movie is so horny, and I love it. The beginning of the horniness starts with this fish, in which he's like, hey, this, my friend's wife is looking pretty good, as she sits there beating laundry on the dock. And this like repetitive, she's just pounding and pounding. Yeah, just pounding that laundry. And this dude is like practically drooling.
Mm-hmm.
What do? Give a girl a fish.
Mm-hmm.
Make her your wife.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, mother-in-law is always sort of on the periphery. And I love the scenario of this. So this grass, listen, like I said, if you don't like grass, if you don't like fields of wheat with abstract jazz underneath, this movie ain't for you. But what I love about the wheat, about the grass, is that it's this reveal, conceal thing, this reveal and conceal duality, in that like people could be right next to you and you would never know it.
Yes.
And so it offers this like voyeuristic opportunity, which this movie is all about, who's seeing what, and like, and who and when. And it's this idea of like, just always somebody sitting in the grass just beyond, observing everything you're doing.
Yeah. This is, I think, you bringing up Children of the Corn earlier, like a slashery type of movie of like knives coming out of the rows of corn. But it's true. I have corn on my land that a local farmer does. And I have walked through that cornfield in the middle of a bright sunny day, and it scares the shit out of me.
Because you can't see more than like a foot, 2 feet in front of your face,
there's
right?
Woodchucks and rabbits and deer. There might even be a bear in there, but it feels like there are going to be some creepy kids in Amish hats that are going to pop out with pitchforks in just a second.
And like made of masks, made out of sacks. There's even, I think it's when those two samurai in the very beginning, there's like one shot that's like, it goes on for a while, but it really establishes, in which you just see the grass bending. And it's not until they are right underneath the camera that you can even see them at all.
Yes.
Which is like fucking terrifying. Like even from above, you can't see anything until they're right on top of you.
It's so gorgeous. I really want to see this movie in a theater. There's so many like textural things happening.
And the light, oh my God, we have the lighting in this movie is unbelievable, especially when we get into the second act, because they live in these, these two kind of identical grass huts, the mother and the daughter, and then Hachi.
Mm-hmm.
And because of it, it's again, like it's porous. So it's all about like pools of light falling on people's faces, people peering through cracks in the grass hut and seeing like, the face of a sleeping person. It's so beautiful. And the downside is that day for night becomes a little confusing in this movie, I found, because it's all shot in black and white film. And it's like, you can't just digitalize it, and it's also, you can't just like throw up a bunch of crane lights like you could in because it'll look falsely lit. But the black and white cinematography in this is so fucking beautiful. Daytime, nighttime, in between time, all of it gorgeous.
And I kind of didn't even mind not entirely knowing how many days had passed between scenes, whether we were day or night, that sort of thing. So let me reset that. Hachi is honestly, I think, trying to help, but he's also trying to insert himself into this family.
Yeah.
Because he, just like Mother, knows there's some value in having a family.
Yeah.
Right. He knows that there's value in us all working together. He wants to be part of the Avengers. He wants to be
Many
part of
hands
this.
make light work, as my mother
Yeah.
used to say.
And it's interesting because Mom is so racked with jealousy and anger, right? She is jealous that her daughter is having this other opportunity to meet a man. She is jealous that he lived and not her son. And
Yeah.
she is angry that all of this is happening. And, he shows that first day one, I caught a giant fucking fish. Also,
Yeah.
day one, two soldiers are fighting a little close to the fray, and he's like, let's go get them. And he helps them. He goes out and stabs one while
Yeah.
they drown the other, and they take all their stuff. He takes it to the shop. And, like I said in my intro, because he's a man, he's a soldier, he's aggressive, he's swarthy, somewhat threatening. He gets into Ushi's shop and it's like, yeah, 3 bags of food and some sake and these fucking drumsticks on the wall.
Yeah.
But Mom can't deal with that. Mom is very upset with all that. But I do want to mention one thing when Hachi is leaving the shop after he gets all of these goods.
Yeah.
This really stuck with me, and this is what made me think to talk about that intro about the disparity in pay. Is as he's leaving the shop, there is another woman and young child,
like an old woman, like
old
grandma
yeah, and child, and she is in bad, like her face. She is borderline the monster in Back of the Diner in Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. She has like some sort of skin disease, malnourishment.
And I love that moment when he eyes her, when he sees her, and because it speaks to the socioeconomic problems happening in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
But it also sort of it also deals with the theme of facial deformity, right? Like we have this in the movie, that mask, what it does to people's faces is a thing. I don't think they're suggesting this woman ever wore the mask, but the idea of your face is who you are.
Yeah.
The fact that we wear masks in this movie tells you everything you need to know about. Your face says who you are, and this woman's face says who she is in this moment.
Oh, yeah.
So now let's start talking about this romance.
Act 2, running through fields of grass, horny as fuck.
Horny as fuck, naked as hell, giggling.
Yeah, the 60s were wild.
They are.
60s were wild.
Well, I'm just thinking about Japanese filmmaking too. 12 years later, we're going to have In the Realm of the Senses.
Yeah.
And you can see, I would presume, some heavy influence of this film onto that next movie of taking some themes and ideas, some shots, the sensuality in this movie. Now, there's no like, In the Realm of the Senses is actual 100% the actors having sex on film. It is very graphic. And this movie, we don't have that, but we have a lot of the sensuality. We have a lot of the embracing is really big in this movie between these two. But I like that he's like, come to my hut later.
As he lasciviously eats a chicken kebab. Did you see that? Did you catch that? He's like licking this little quail, making eyes at the daughter. Like,
I gotta try this at a bar. I gotta try this at a bar. Just like licking a satay stick. Come to my hut later. My hut.
Come to my hut. Yeah. And he's essentially, it's almost like he's passing notes to her because he knows he has to do it. You know, like he knows that Mom is not happy about this pairing. And she's always kind of hovering. However, in Mom's defense, the daughter is a diligent worker. She is always working. She's doing laundry. She's fetching water. And then over the course of this day or two, when Hachi has decided, he's like, hey, you're looking pretty good. all of a sudden that bucket isn't getting filled
Yeah.
because she's out filling her bucket.
Yeah, she is getting her bucket filled, just not for the store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this is sort of like a classic parent-child story even to today, where the parent wants something of the child
Yeah.
and the child wants something for themselves. That, as you know, we presume that this young woman is, oh, given the time, she might be 15 years old. Like this woman, this actress looks,
She
25
seems
or
older.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, she seems older. I don't mean to suggest like this is like child whatever, but when you think about ages, how far we
Yes.
lived at times, like the idea of
Oh,
like,
yeah. If you made
you're
it
of
to
birthing,
25, you're middle aged,
yeah. So, but yeah, the idea that you need this child to do the work of the family.
to
But the
survive.
mom
Yeah.
has the choice to allow Hachi in to say,
I
yes, we can
know.
all be a family, but she refuses. And this is her,
Mhm.
is it hubris? It's not
Yes.
hubris. It
Yeah.
is hubris.
Hubris is like divine pride, or like
Yeah.
pride for downfall. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is her downfall that,
Yeah.
honestly, I think she could have gotten everything she wanted had she let him in, everything but her son. But theoretically, this man had nothing to do with her son's death.
Yep.
But in her mind, did he?
Did he? I know, it's always the thing.
I want to talk about, we have a few scenes like this in the movie, and I want to know your thoughts on them, which is Hachi just acting a fool by himself. Like there's a scene where he, right after the come to my hut later tonight, as he runs home, he's like screaming and leaping through the wheat and rolling on the ground. Later we see him like doing samurai moves in his underwear, just having a great time. What is happening with this man?
Jeffrey, have you ever been so horny
Yes.
that you've just
Oh.
had to roll around on the floor and thrash it? I've not. But it has this feeling of like this guy, like it's right on his doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
There is a beautiful woman. There is a woman. There's two women. There's but a beautiful woman that he's into right on his doorstep. Her husband's dead. Like, why? She seems kind of into me. Why can't I have, like, it's driving him to fits.
Yeah.
Literal fits.
Yeah.
I also think it's really interesting, this idea of the boredom. There's nothing to do. The sameness of the grass. We're not in a forest. We're not on the mountains. We're not by the ocean, which has like kind of some changes, and you can kind of occupy your brain a little. This is just grass as far as the eye can see. There's no books to read. There's nothing except you and your hungers, your desires, your hungers for food and your desires for sex. That's it. And I think it's boredom and he wants to get laid.
Yeah.
So bad that he throws himself on the ground and is thrashing around.
The next time I know that I'm going to get laid, I'm just going to try it, just to roll around. I'm just going to, by myself, just run through the cornfield.
Punch a wall
around.
or two.
Yeah. Just do barrel rolls through the forest floor. Just, I don't know, just to see how that feels. Maybe that gets you worked up. I don't know. That's fun.
I mean, I think it's the equivalent of like people that are like go to the gym and like exercise away that like burn off that energy.
Yeah.
I think it's a similar thing, but this is feudal Japan. So like literally you just have a field of grass. That's your Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
That's your Barry's boot camp or whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah. There's no steps machine, or
there's no spin class.
No, there's no spin class. So mom follows her late at night, and she sees that they're off doing their sex and doing their thing, and these two young people are very into fucking. Like they both are very horny for each other, very horny for just horniness in general. And it's like classic young love. Like you just like, I cannot stop touching you. I can't stop touching you. Texting.
Let's do it in every room of the house.
Yeah.
Well, this house only has one room, so let's do it in the one room of the house, and then let's do it outside.
Let's do it for every hour of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's constant throughout, and mom is overwhelmed by this. To your point, mom also is like, you're not at work.
Yeah.
You're skipping work to go fucking. Like, you have to clock out
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a sex break at this
Yeah.
job.
And
You
if
have
you're gonna or if you're gonna fuck all night, what good are you to me during the day when we're supposed to be out killing samurai and, finding food?
mm-hmm.
Because you're gonna be lazy sleepy girl.
Yeah. So mom is like, but it's interesting because that's the real practical conversation to
Yeah.
have. But that's not the conversation she wants to have.
Uh-uh.
She's like, it's embodied in her. The emotion running through her is jealousy.
Yeah.
So she now is confronting Hachi about like,
Like
don't
the
you want
next
to
day.
the
Yeah, the
next
next
day?
day.
Hey, don't you
She's
want to?
trying
I'll sleep with you. Don't
she's
you
trying
want to
to be
sleep
all
with me?
coy. She's like, I haven't seen my daughter around. Hey. I love it. What is the line where she's like, he's like, you're old. She's like, I'm not old on the inside. I was like, ooh, madame. Oh,
I'm
also,
like,
there's one other little thing. When mom is uh peeping on the lovers,
yeah.
they're just having a little in between chat, in between fucking, and it's when it's there that the daughter says, I was so scared running through the fields coming over here. I had to run so fast. And
Mhm.
that's where that seed is planted.
Yes.
That will happen, that will like come to flower later in the film.
Yeah. Just a message to any 20 something straight men out there. If you're not cougar chasing, what are you doing?
You're only that's yeah, what are you
Why are you not doing this? Like, you are
well
wasting your own time and everyone else's. I'm not saying you need to exclusively date older women. I'm just saying if an older woman pops a tit out and be like, hey, what's up, big boy? You're like, all right, let's do
yeah.
this.
I listen, I think the mom's only like the only the problem is was her timing.
It
Like
is. Yeah.
after fucking somebody for like 10 hours and then they're like napping in the middle of the day because they're like so sexed out, that's not when you pop the tit out. Like you
It's not.
gotta, there's a refractory period. You gotta
Yeah.
like wait a little bit. If she'd waited another day, maybe she would have kind of been able to, you know, it's just really interesting, this idea of there's nothing stopping the three of them from actually like unifying and
There's
kind of
nothing.
like making a new family unit. If the daughter had married him, but that means that the mother-in-law is worried that they're going to like run away and leave her.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes less of a let's all work together and it becomes a who's going to fuck over who first.
She lets the emotions get the better of her rather than thinking through it practically and
Yeah.
trying to make anything work. And she lacks, you're totally right. Her timing is bad. She lacks tact. She has no panache to
Yeah.
her. She has no salesmanship. She is so direct about
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
and blunt. And so she goes from, hey, sleep with me, big boy,
Yeah.
uh to don't take her away from me.
Yeah.
I can't
I will
kill
stab you
without her.
both.
And
Oh,
then
yeah, oh God.
I will stab the two of you in your sleep.
And then, of course, Hachi says, but then aren't you just going to be by yourself?
Yeah, who's going to help you then? Idiot. Yeah.
It's interesting, like the dance of negotiation in that first scene and the dance of seduction in this scene are really similar. She's too direct. She
Yeah.
doesn't understand, this armor is not so good, maybe one bag. Like she doesn't have that, like, it's like, look at the, she's like, no, this is what it is. This is the price. I pay the price. If he says one bag, I get the one bag and I will talk shit about him later. Like like the mother is so direct. These like the dance of seduction, the dance of negotiation are kind of lost on her.
Yeah.
She's a like, it says $10, I'm paying $10
Yeah.
kind of lady.
Well, that's the value of things too. She is a person who is obsessed with the value of things. She will spend I can't remember if we had this anecdote on the show before, but remember talking to somebody about a friend of mine went to go visit family in Florida, and she was around her like sister and brother-in-law and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, they have a Costco membership, which makes sense. They have kids.
Sure.
But they are the type of people who will go wait 20 minutes in line for gas at Costco because it's 15 cents cheaper per gallon.
Right. Yeah.
And they will be there in their car that has a 12-gallon tank. And so in the grand scheme of things, maybe they are saving a what? A dollar, $1.80, $2, something like that. And that 20 minutes, like it basically says 20 minutes, you save $2.
Yeah.
That means you're valuing your time at $6 an hour.
Yep.
Like you're actually only thinking about the dollars and cents and not the value that doesn't really quite have a price on it. Sometimes you pay more so that you don't have to deal with this other bullshit. And that's where she doesn't place
She's
the value
very literal minded.
She doesn't place value on really working somebody over at the correct time, like talking to them, like seducing, truly seducing a person and thinking about how things will work. Okay, well, let's talk about the most disturbing scene in this film, which is when mother and daughter, we see a short scene where there is a puppy loose in the wheat field and they go chasing it, they catch it, and they pound it to death and eat it.
Man, they are on that dog so fucking fast. It's like, look, a dog, dinner.
Yeah. And it's a jarring scene because if you did this scene with them chasing a bird, a chicken,
yeah.
If you did this scene with them chasing a deer,
yep,
and hunting it down, whatever it is, even a rat or a squirrel, but it's a puppy, like it's a black lab just running through this field. Again, it I don't know, I can't quite place my finger on it, but I get it. I understand the scene because it gets back to the pure base animal instincts of us all. Like we have to hunt, we have to
desperation.
We are desperate. And at no point in time is there any consideration for like, yo, we just ate a puppy.
No,
I know
we are
hungry.
lucky. We are lucky.
Yeah,
we just ate. And again, it's like you see them pounce on this dog. I mean, and it's not a graphic scene. I just want to point that out there. This is not at all
it's like disturbing, but it's not graphic.
Like we see the mom running after the dog and just go to catch it, and then it's like a below shot of the daughter with the water bucket beating the camera from the dog's point of view. Cut to them eating the biggest pieces of meat in silence. And again, it's that, like, if you've ever gone out hiking or done like a day at the beach where you've been like active all day, and then you sit down and your entire family or your friends and everyone is silent because they're so fucking hungry, they just need to like put food into their body. It's like that.
Yeah,
every meal is like that for them.
Yeah. Mom says to daughter after this meal, she starts getting onto her about like, your sins will get you into hell.
She's so subtle. She's just like, it's a real shame that people go to sex hell. I'd hate to go to slutty hell. I mean, they say there's a lot of different hells, but slutty hell sounds like the worst. Apropos of nothing, the daughter's like,
yeah, the sexual crimes of it. She also says like the souls in sex hell have human faces but 4 legs. Like they're just mutant, horrible looking people. They're just disgusting. And then later that night, while daughter is out,
she sneaks away,
planning her trip to sex hell. Mom is visited by a samurai wearing a demon mask.
Yeah. And again, this is another jump scare where it's like, you know, you think you're like, okay, we're into this sort of like weird sex, you know, like it's this sort of shenanigans of like, she's pretending to sleep, the daughter gets up, she pretends to, you know, like it's but then all of a sudden, like, again, a knife or a spear comes through her front door. Total jump scare.
Yeah.
She doesn't get stabbed, but this like and it's a really nice looking samurai. Like we've seen, now that we've kind of seen a couple of samurai come and go through their hands, this one looks rich.
He looks very nice. He's big.
He's real big.
He's real big. He has much nicer armor, much nicer weapon, much nicer sword. Like it glints in the
Yeah.
moonlight when they're walking through the field.
Like he looks like a general. Like he's got, like
Mhm.
this is not just some underling here.
No. And he tells her, you know, that he is human. I'm
Yes.
actually human.
Mhm.
And he lies to her, as we will learn later about what this mask does to people. But, he tells her, well, I'm not going to show you my face because it is so handsome. I wear this mask to protect my handsome face.
Uh-huh. Well, first he says, I wear it in battle to
Mhm.
to frighten the enemy.
Yes.
Totally plausible. But I love this rationale. Listen, next time I'm on Grindr, I'm just going to take away all my photos. And when people are like, hey, can I see your pictures? I'll be like, listen, I would show you my pictures, but I'm so goddamn handsome. You're going to fall in love with me immediately. And so, like, I can't just have everyone falling in love with me all the time. So I can't actually show you what I look like and see how that plays out.
I think it's going to go great.
I think people will really understand.
Samurai Right Said Fred wants directions to Kyoto. And she's like, it's that way. He's like, no, I need you to show me. I have to get to Kyoto. I know it's burned down, but I got to get there.
He's like, I've been wandering through this field of grass for like days and I can't find my way out. I need a guide.
Love that visual too, because we saw that from the beginning of like, it looks like this field could go on ad infinitum. Who even knows? She's kind of negotiating like, well, you're just going to walk me out in the wheat field and kill me. And he says, well, I won't kill you if you show me how to get to Kyoto. So
he's like, honestly,
I will kill you if you don't.
Yeah, like why would I bother killing a person? Like what benefit would it do to kill you? Just show me, just tell me how to get the fuck out of here.
I think he also says like it's sort of above a samurai to kill a peasant.
Yeah, which is like interesting. We're kind of this idea of, again, like I think in terms, as being a Westerner, like very Shakespearean, in that there's like, there's nobility and then there's the peasant class, and like they both live in the same world and they kind of bump up against each other, but there's such different expectations and class expectations. But everybody got to eat.
It is true. We have to have that class separation. It is very Shakespearean. It's very English, right? It's like that the king in England would have been, is the nobility is derived from the hand of God, right? Like the God blessed this throne. And in the same way that the emperor is, I think, literally a god in Japan. And so
to serve the emperor is holy.
Yeah.
To serve the kingdom, like I'm thinking like Henry IV Part 1, in which they're like, Falstaff goes out and he's trying to they're trying to rattle up soldiers. They're like, okay, we've got this guy who's never swung a sword, who's like 90 pounds. Yep, that'll do. Great. He's going to die in a few days anyway. But the thing is, like, for every person that they recruit, they also get graft. They get money. So to enlist as many peasants as you can means you're actually putting money in your own pocket.
Capitalism's awesome. It just
great.
It trains our brains in awesome.
That's more
ways.
Feudalism, but
it is. I know. Yeah, you're true. You're right.
But the samurai does seem to have, out of this movie, in which not a single goddamn person we have met, like they're living by the code of the dog, in which you see a dog, you kill it, you eat it. This character does seem to have some nobility to him. Like it's I trust, like I'm in a desperate spot, but I am Sir Knight. And I am sworn by a code and an oath and all this other bullshit that we don't really get into, but it just has that feeling of, if he says he won't kill her, you can probably kind of trust him, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So they go out into the field and she's classic devious mom. Like, I think she walks him very close to the hole.
She goes straight to that pit, man. She knows exactly where she's taking him.
And he's like, falls down the hole, and she's like, all right, let's go collect this really nice samurai ship.
I love
and
it.
That mask is real nice, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Well, she climbs down to the pit, and he's not quite dead. Not dead yet, I'm not dead yet. She's like, fuck it. Yeah, I was like, maybe you could, I don't know, you could have like let him bleed out, but you know, because he sort of twitches while. Now listen, this is where I was like, listen, this is a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a pit filled with skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking creepy.
It is.
And there's like this guy who's like dying, and I think she either kicks him or he just dies eventually. And she's stripping him down. She's trying to get that mask off. It's weird. The mask doesn't seem to want to come off of his face. Huh.
Really, we're having to really pull hard here.
Really hard.
Yeah.
She finally does get it off, and his face, his supposedly so handsome, is like pockmarked and boiled.
Yeah.
Like acid burn level of, you know, but like but in a 1960s budget kind of way, you know.
Yeah. It's funny looking at this man's face. I'm like, honestly, if he just cleaned up all that,
actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say this
like
dude's really handsome.
Which tells you again, it's like, what are the story people telling? What are their actions, and what is the truth?
Yeah.
Which is like such an important thing about us. You know, you think about Rashomon came out, you know, not, I think that's like 54. So that's like maybe a little bit, but that idea of immutable truth.
Mm-hmm.
What is truth? How can truth change depending on who's telling it? So you kind of wonder, what was the truth of the lie? I'm so handsome, I had to put a demon mask on my face to protect my beautiful upper crust face in this horrible, terrible war.
Yeah.
Is that his sin? Is that his hubris? Is that his pride that turned him into a demon?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think his lie about that isn't that he's not handsome, or that he doesn't believe that, like, you wouldn't be able to bear how handsome I am. I could absolutely believe that a man thinks that, especially if he is noble, wealthy, and handsome. And has probably been told his whole life that he is those things.
You're the handsomest man in all of Kyoto.
And that you see peasants as not quite human, not on your level, not in your circle of heaven, you know? But his lie is that I refuse to remove it, as opposed to I cannot remove it. But take that one step further. Maybe he's never tried to remove it. Maybe.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, you're right.
I think he is cursed, and he fucking knows it. I think he is that, and I think that's like, he is desperate to get back to Kyoto because he needs to find some sort of religious holy person to like undo this curse.
You're totally right.
I mean, maybe. I think he cursed as fuck, and he knows
that's why he's left the war. Yes, you're totally right. He would not, if he was so noble and so into battle and frightening the enemy, he would be hungry for more of doing that. But he's obviously deserted. To achieve his own needs. Individual needs. I like that when she finally gets this fucking mask off, she laughs. I just wrote R.I.P. bitch.
Mine. And she's like, let's see the handsomest face in all of Japan. I also love when she's trying to rebuff that lie, she's like, I've only ever met 6 people in my whole goddamn life.
Right.
You have the handsomest face in the world. Let's see it. And he's like, keep walking, woman. You know.
Now mom has a new toy. You talk about boredom no more, Cecil.
Oh, I know, right?
This was like me when I got a Nintendo Switch, and I was like, airplane rides are going to be changed forever.
Right. I'm going to Stardew Valley all the fuck over this country. But it's not just a toy. It's also a tool.
Mm-hmm. So now we're getting back into the young people, and they're like screaming and running through the woods, doing sexes, doing gigglings.
My God, just like, I love it. It's this beautiful shot of the two of them naked running through the marshlands, just happy as can be. Too happy.
So the daughter is sneaking out one night through the wheat fields, and suddenly,
wait. Oh,
wait, I'm sorry.
Wait. So mom now has to. So now we get into that. We're going to do 3 nights.
Oh, you're right.
So mom has to come up with an excuse to leave.
So she can get in costume.
so she can go get it. She's like, I got half an hour. So she's like, yeah, like clearly she packed up all the armor. She's like, oh yeah, I just happened to find this armor. I'm gonna go at night because it's so hot during the day to go over to Ushi's. So she gets the daughter and she's like, I'll be back after dinner. So you get
Yeah.
yourself some dinner. I'll be back in a little bit. She goes, she sets up, and then of course, and it's like the daughter just being bored as fuck,
Yeah.
just trying to like repress that section. She's like, fuck it, I'm gonna go see my lover.
Yeah. And in the middle of the field, she runs across Onibaba.
Mm-hmm.
She runs across Demon Woman in full, like, her hair is amazing. And the mom's
Yeah,
hair coming out over the mask, it's so frazzled. It's almost like glistening too.
it's also
It's,
not her hair, it's
yeah.
longer. I wonder if it's part of the mask
Oh, it
or
could
part
be.
of like, and I don't know enough about ceremonial masks in Japan or like because I know this is a traditional demon mask,
Mhm.
like very traditional, but I don't know enough about it to know, is the hair a part of it? I think it might be, but
Yeah.
it's a look to be sure.
Yes. This mask is incredible. It's so scary. It's such a perfect mask in that every different way it
Yeah,
turns, it has a different shape, it has a different
yeah,
facial expression. There's a moment with when the samurai is still wearing it, wherein she confronts him about, I've only ever seen like six
yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah,
people. It will easily impress me how handsome you are. Show me
yeah,
your
yeah,
fucking face.
yeah,
And there's a close up on the mask that the eyes aren't looking straight at you. They're off
yeah,
slightly up and to the side. And so it kind of looks a little bit, when they do the close up of his mask, it looks very much like the demon is thinking,
yeah.
wait, should I? Okay, she's caught me in a scenario.
Uh-huh.
I
How can
cannot,
I get out of
I
this?
can't, if I try to remove, I probably would in a normal circumstance, but I can't take the mask off. And I told her that I don't want to let on that that's the case.
Yeah.
But there are
I
other moments like in this cornfield where the demon looks like it has this like almost goatee. It's just the chin is so
mhm.
long. Everything about it is threatening. It
Yeah.
is super threatening.
Well, something I noticed is that when it's shot from above, so like when it's, let's say, the mom looking up at the warrior, the demon mask looks angry. But when it's seen from above, when it's later, let's say the daughter looking at the mother in the mask,
Mm-hmm.
it looks sad or pathetic.
Yeah, that's such great. I was thinking about mask work, and it's been a long time since I've studied masks. Going
Mhm.
back to college theater days, because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
done a ton of mask stuff in theater myself. But thinking about mask design is so important, to have all of these
Yeah.
facets of the mask, but also mask usage is vital too.
Right.
The way in which somebody in no style
Mhm.
theater will have to turn their head or
Yeah.
hold it to
To
the
look
light.
up and to the left to know that you are indicating thinking.
Yes. And also to understand the way it changes the shape of the mask for the
Yeah.
audience. It's sort of like knowing, being a TV or film actor and knowing your
Right.
frame. You got to know
Yeah.
your four corners,
Yeah.
and know where you fit in
Know
those
where your
things.
sight lines are.
And I love that at the time of this film being made, like, we're only half a century into filmmaking, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh we're just 40 years removed. Like, this movie is closer to silent film
Yeah.
than it is to Gladiator, right? Like,
Mhm.
this and you can see that in this movie, but it's film is still new. Like, we are barely
Yeah.
into the idea that a camera can be moved on wheels,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know?
right.
And
Mobile.
so to be able to capture this demon's face in digital, or in sorry in moving photography, is really impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, now
So daughter
we're
goes
set up
running home. She's
this
like, I saw a
repetition.
demon. I saw a
Yeah,
demon. She's like, and mom is like, what? There's no such thing as demons, girl. Get to sleep.
but if they were, I bet they would be really mad about kids having sex with
I
each other.
mean, they do come after sinners every once in a while, but I think you'll be safe. She playing, oh my God, the mendacity of it all.
Meanwhile, Oh yeah, these cuts to Hachi doing his samurai moves. He's so horny. He's got to do samurai moves in his underwear in his apartment.
I mean, have you ever made like an online hookup app? And they're like, I'll be there in 30. And then you reach that minute where it's like 45 minutes and you're like, what the? I have cleaned everything. I've like tidied up the apartment. I am ready.
Uh-huh.
I actually saw a friend of mine was like, there should be there should be a toll levied when a top breaks a grinder date for a bottom and they do all the prep work and then they no show. I was like, you should levy a toll.
There does need to be a tax for that. That sounds horrible.
Because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Or it can be a lot of work. But this is like, he's like, she said she would come.
Yeah.
I even saved her. And it's like in a sad, pathetic, grubby sort of way. It's actually kind of beautiful in that you look at it. He's got the sake out. He's got 2 little birds saved. Like he was planning a date night.
Yeah.
He was ready. And he got the dinner reservations and she's just not showing up.
Yeah.
Because she's seeing demons. She's
seeing
sex demons.
He's got the rose petals in the tub.
Oh my God.
Just everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do this again. It's another night in the field where she's trying to come to see Hachi, but we've also got mom standing in the way. And then when we see Hachi later being like, Hachi's getting more upset. Like he's going through the wheat field, like looking for her. Like, are you lost? What's your deal? Like he's texting her like, where are you at? But he's getting more and more crazy because that second night in the field, like he cuts his hand on some type of stalk of a plant and he like licks his own blood. He is so hungry for fluid. I
mean, like, if like running through fields of grass is the symbol for sexual repression, it is now literally skin deep.
Yes. Now we've got a case wherein on this third night we do it all again. It is this time it is a dark and stormy night.
I love it.
And daughter runs into the demon and she is now at this point like, fuck this shit. She's like, Hachi, like I am trying to come. Like, I'm sorry. Literally, my phone broke. I am trying to get a hold of you.
A demon took my phone.
Yes.
I've been on that date, actually.
And he finds her in the wheat field and they embrace. And it is the demon mother is watching all of this.
Man, can you imagine? Like, this scene is so... I took a video of this scene because in this scene, like the lightning hitting the demon mother is so fucking cool. But it's also it's again grubby and sad that it's like, here's the mother watching these two lovers, knowing that they think demons are after them and they're so goddamn horny for each other that they don't care there's demons everywhere. They're gonna fuck.
Yeah,
that is desperation.
It is desperation. And I think in this moment she sees this is a there's a humility on the mask, at this point.
Like it seems sad, diminished.
It seems sad because it's, I don't want my child to leave me, but also I'm starting to understand and see it for what it is.
Yeah. I can't, not even trickery is going to thwart these two lovers.
Yeah. Not even what was our Japanese hell movie, Jigoku?
Oh, Jigoku?
Yeah. Not even the threat of that film can really bring these kids to behaving and keeping their private parts off.
But you see this like in this moment, like, and this is the third night. You start to see that mom is the third wheel. Like really, like she's now, like you can't talk your way out of this. These two are going to leave. Like
she had her chance to bring him in.
Yep.
And she refused because he was not her son. And the daughter,
and also because he didn't want her as well. Listen, when she's like horny and rubbing up on that tree, when she's like humping that tree.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that tree is getting almost as much action as your daughter.
Yeah. Back at the women's hut.
Well, no, wait. There's one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because Hachi,
well, okay. Yes.
So they it's just like fucking.
Yes.
Demon mom goes away. Hachi, he's like, whew, finally, 3 days. I just
Yes.
cleaned out the pipes, right?
Yeah.
He walks into his hut and there's another, like someone with a kind of deformed, malnourished skin, just like pounding rice at his fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
That person freaks out, stabs Hachi, and runs away.
Yeah. Yeah, this is sort of the tragedy of the scene with the women. That's the you know this the irony
Yes.
actually. The sadness here of what's going to happen is because we see Hachi murdered in the way a lot of people have been murdered, like you just wrong place, wrong time, dude.
Yep. Somebody was so hungry that they saw a hut with a fire burning. You caught them, you scared them, and
Yeah,
they lashed out and
and
like
killed you.
life is real cheap at this
Uh,
time.
I mean, that's to me, I immediately thought of the puppy scene. I
Yeah.
immediately thought because the reason why watching a puppy get killed is horrifying because
The puppy didn't do
dogs
anything.
are an extension of us too. Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
there's a
yeah.
pure innocence to the puppy, but there's a pure innocence to a chicken.
Yeah, or a
But like,
fawn or
but
yeah, yeah.
a dog is an extension of humanity, right? It is man's best friend. It is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it almost is. We imbue dogs with human traits. A horse, if we saw a horse get murdered, it'd be very
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
Because a
Which again,
horse,
I had that thought more than once. I was like, if y'all so hungry, you could be eating that horse, and you could be eating that horse for a long time too.
you could, yeah. And so when I thought of the dog, because there is a thing where it's like, no, that's not how the order of things happens. Like, you
Yeah.
should die in war, you should die of illness, you should die because you were working so hard that you
Mhm.
got sick in the rain or whatever. Like,
Or
there's,
like standing to like if that person had been like, give me some food, and you said no, that's my food, I'm gonna fight you for it.
yeah, you should have
That's
a
a
chance
that's
to
a
fight.
thing. But this is just like topsy turvy. Up is
He
down, down is up.
he was as defenseless as the puppy. He was
Yeah.
as unknowing of what was about to happen as the puppy was.
Yep.
And he gets stabbed to death. And meanwhile, unknowing, back at the women's hut, we have another problem at hand, which is
Oh,
mom
this
shows
scene
up in the
is
demon mask and
fuck
says,
me.
"Wait, it was me all along. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been doing this to you because I was unhappy with this. Please forgive me. I now understand where I was wrong, and I am being punished because this mask does not come off."
Mm-hmm. She's like, it was rainy. I don't know. I like fell into a vat of Gorilla Glue. I'm not sure what happened.
Uh-huh.
I love this scene, and it's like, again, the like having done mask work and like knowing some of the like intricacies of it is like watching this actress with the demon mask on again, like in a position of supplication of like she's on her hands and knees in front of her daughter-in-law. The way this actress works this mask, it like works it in the way that we think of like working, like Anne Hathaway would work a beautiful dress on a
Right.
red carpet. Like
Uh-huh.
it requires a skill. It requires like a bit of planning.
The way a
Like
magician works a deck of cards, it's
exactly.
masterful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like she finds so many angles because because mask work is all about angles. So it's like when seen from above and to the left or up and down, it's like she finds so many ways and it all looks alive.
It does.
It looks so alive.
Well, unfortunately, daughter can't get it off either.
Yep.
And
She's like,
she
and
resorts,
she's saying like it hurts. It hurts.
it
It
hurts.
hurts.
And the daughter is now, which is interesting because there's a vanity here too.
Yeah.
As in, my question is, we don't really know that the mask does anything to you other than
Nope.
stay on your face.
That's it.
And there's a certain point where when we met the samurai earlier, I think he truly does have a handsome face.
Yeah.
And also he knows he has a handsome face. And all of the advantage that the mask gave him of scaring other people started to wear on him because of his pride in his face. Yeah. And there's a thing here with mom, because she already is at a disadvantage of being an older woman, not quite an old woman, but an older woman wherein she gets treated with less respect. She has to fight harder for what she needs. She gets paid less for the things she brings in. She gets sexually harassed by the shopkeep in the cave. And it's so what little she has to work with, she, this mask helps elevate that, but it also divides her from her daughter.
Yeah.
It scares her daughter. And
it
so
it
she
reminds
cannot
me,
have the mask anymore.
this film reminds me a lot of the portrait of Dorian Gray, the picture of Dorian Gray, in that it's like something supernatural that takes your internal darkness and puts it on the external.
Yeah.
Because mom uses the mask once, twice, but 3 times a charm. And it's not until she stands there watching her daughter-in-law and this guy have sex, and it's like she becomes the demon.
Yeah.
She realizes that she's lost.
This is a classic horror trope, right? Which is, the supernatural object will let you use it once.
Yeah.
And it will give you fair warning.
Like the monkey's paw. The
monkey's paw, the Ouija board. Last month I saw Talk to Me, which has kind of a monkey's paw-ish type of device. And there's this over and over wherein like you keep touching the thing and it is dangerous. Warning you.
Yeah.
I think after school special drug parable sort of stuff too. Like, listen, honestly, you do a cocaine one time, it's not going to like turn your nose into flames or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill you theoretically, but there will start to be warning signs if you're like, let's do it for the 5th time today.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where she's at with this. She uses it too much. Daughter has to break out the mallet.
Woof. And this is where like the cinematography is so wild because it's very much the 60s. It's like really, there's a lot of rule breaking going on. And we've gone from a pretty film looking film. A lot of steady shots, a lot of moving shots, but this is like handheld, frenetic. And it's the daughter whacking the mom on the face with a mallet, trying to break the mask off. The mother is in so much pain that she's writhing on the floor, but it's like you're in the hut with them, and it's like you're only catching glimpses of the, like, it's wild. It's got that like cinema verite kind of like lawlessness that you get from a handheld camera.
Yeah.
And it goes on for a minute and it's tense.
And if she finally cracks it open and peels back the mask and mom's face is disfigured like the samurai's face was disfigured, and the daughter-in-law says, now it is a real demon.
You're a demon.
You're a demon.
And she's like,
and
no,
this is amazing.
I'm human.
I love this line so much because it is speaking to the actual truth of what mom was all along. Like her daughter can finally see, it took the mask to reveal what was actually underneath her mom the whole time, which is a person who was hell-bent on destroying her daughter's happiness because it made her, because she didn't get what she wanted, because of
she didn't want to be alone so bad that she's willing to risk being alone forever to get what she wants.
And she had every opportunity to bring Hachi in. And it was, he died alone. You know what I mean? He died. That person would not have been in that farmhouse, would not have been in his hut had someone else been there. We knew that from Hachi talking about stealing food before. Like, we tried to go to empty farms.
Like if he had been at home having sex,
that dude's not showing up.
Like it, because the match was sort of like, okay, we allow you to get married,
And he and her daughter both wanted him to become part of the family, and she refused. And so it is, when she cracks open the mask, sees her true face, it's not just that her face is hideous now, it's that she sees her for who she really is, which is you are a demon, both literally and metaphorically. And she goes running, and we have a chase scene through the field.
I think I know where they're headed. The hole. Take me to the hole.
And the daughter, young and spry, leaps over the hole. And mom, no longer as young and spry as she used to be, is also like, sure, this is what we do. We leap. Oh shit, I'm not going to make it. She falls
No,
down. Oh,
no, we don't see that at all, Jeffrey. We
oh,
see the last shots of this movie, our daughter jumps over the hole. The mother running straight at camera
you're right.
jumps, and you see her kind of in the air, and she's saying, I'm a human, I'm a human, I'm a human. End film.
This was
There's no landing,
you're
there's no
totally right.
falling.
You're
It's
totally right.
like it's like, does she make it, does she not? Like, it's really left very ambiguous.
Well, I just sort of inadvertently answered the question of, so Jeffrey, what do you think? Did you think the top falls at the end of Inception?
Yeah,
It is kind of
it's
that
that.
sort of deal. I definitely,
It feels
probably
like she
because I
falls.
wanted it
Yeah.
both as a emotional investment in the movie. I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, she's got to die. Fuck her.
Yeah.
Um, but
And it makes
also,
she's in such a
yeah,
crazed state. So even though she knows the whole, like, she leaps, but it's not the pure clean leap of the, like she was before. It's, yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a testament to like how suggestive film can be. And I love it when film is like more suggestive than representational. Like, it was like, no, we're going to tell you exactly what happened in a very Steven Spielberg, look at this, and now this is exactly what happened. This is very much leaves it ambiguous.
yeah. Well, shall we rate this film?
Yes, let's.
On our Sasha scale, the squeamish approachability scale for the horror averse. We're gonna kind of give you an idea if you don't usually like to watch a horror movie, like how approachable would this one be if you're interested in seeing it. I'm gonna give it a 1 to 10 rating. 1 being like don't go near it, and 10 being yeah, anyone can access this. I would give Onibaba like 9 wicker baskets full of swords, like 9 bags of millet, maybe. It's it's classic. Like this feels like watching a Bergman film.
It's
It
like
feels
watching
like
the old dark house.
yeah, it's in the realm of Bergman and Kurosawa. It's
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
realm of these types of really gorgeously shot movies that are so simple, so easy to follow, so easy to emotionally invest into, and then also so complex with just a simple story. And I think this movie's brilliant. That we talked about. There's a dog death in it that is not graphic, but it's jarring. There are some jump scares that don't have the same jarring impact of like modern day jump scares where we have the type of sound. And I don't think this movie really wants you to like fly out of your seat. But yeah, it's got a little bit of that, but it is more Criterion Collection level than Shudder. So I would say 9 out of 10, super approachable. I think if you are interested in film and you haven't seen this, yeah, go for it. If you're horror verse, you're going to access this movie easily, and it is a horror film, most definitely. Cecil, what do you think as a horror film?
As a horror film, I love this because it's much more of the it was a dark and stormy night kind
Mm,
of horror film, like skeleton pits, demon masks. Like, it's brutal and scary, but in a much older way, in a
mhm.
way that Macbeth is a horror film,
Yeah.
rather than Saw is a horror film. So, there is a case to be made that it lands on the spectrum. I think it's beautiful and subtle, and it's about so much more than, like, there's, like you said, it's a beautiful film. But in the realm of horror, pretty fucking, I gotta say, it's pretty fucking scary. Like, it's like a spooky tale for a
Hmm.
dark and stormy night.
Agreed.
And it does a great job at that. So for that, I'm gonna give it 8 out of 10 bags of millet.
I love it. Let's figure out what movie we will watch next. I feel my palate after this one is cleansed from the previous couple of contemporary
Great.
movies, and this was amazing. So let's figure out what we'll watch next. You have a scare die. I have a style die. Cecil, if you roll a 1, our next movie scare is wild card, whatever scare we want to pick. But if you roll a 2, it's a vampire. 3, something mythological. 4, society is the scare. 5, psycho killer. 6, something witchy. What you got on your roll?
That's a 5.
We're going to go psycho killer.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
We're going to match up your psycho killer scare with the style that I roll. So if I roll a 1, our style is giallo. Ooh, that'll be a tough match. 2, art house horror. 3, something from the 1970s. 4, a sequel plus something beyond. 5, a rural horror. Or 6, based on a book. So what do we got in style? I've got a 2, art house horror.
Ooh.
Psycho killer.
Okay.
All right. We put a couple on here, and then also we have a letterboxed account, Random Horror 9, if you want to help contribute to our movie selection process. We put all the potential matches up there on Letterboxd, and just ask people to help contribute to ideas if you have them. So we'll check in and see what the what people had to say about Art House Psycho Killer. Do you want to talk about a couple of tell us what we have on our list, Cecil?
Okay, sure. So I think the first one on the list is Mandy, which is Nicolas Cage and his wife are being attacked by a very charismatic, very creepy cult leader. I've never seen this movie, but apparently there's an epic chainsaw fight in it.
Okay, great.
But very much like very art house indie horror kind of deal.
Tell me about The Cell.
You know, I have not seen The Cell in so goddamn long. I remember seeing it in the movie theater, but it's like Jennifer Lopez is, I can't remember the conceit of this movie. Jennifer Lopez is a cop who's trying to find a serial killer, but has to do it in this like dream world in which she wears like Balenciaga gowns in the middle of the desert. Something like that. So it's like a little bit Inception and a little bit Silence of the Lambs.
It's Pret-a-Porter meets Paprika.
Yes, there you go.
Paprika Porte.
Paprika Porte.
What about these next two we wrote down?
Let's see, we have Tetsuo, the Iron Man, which is, I don't know if I guess it's kind of a psycho killer movie, but it's like a guy driven to revenge who like gets so driven to revenge that he becomes a cyborg man machine and then just goes on a fucking killing spree around Tokyo. And then this last one I put on here as well. This is one that I've not seen, again, in a long time. Man Bites Dog, which is a French film. This is from the 90s, and it's interesting. Like this film, it plays with a lot of stuff that in the found footage era, like of digital, will become so commonplace that this movie was doing it in that there's a serial killer who a documentary film crew has discovered, and they're like, we promise not to intervene, we just want to document your life as a serial killer. And it's very dark comedy French. So you get to see this, like, you know, we think psycho killer, we think like, oh my god, unstoppable horror, but this guy's just kind of like a little sad and pathetic and maybe kind of funny, and also a psycho killer.
Well, let's check out our letterboxed. I'm gonna start at the bottom here just because that's where I was already scrolled to. For Psycho Killer meets Art House, Volatile Spiders has Akira, definitely fits. Weaponized Toaster brings up Hard Candy, starring Elliot Page. This is a mid-aughts film. 14-year-old female vigilante traps and tortures a man whom she suspects of being a sexual predator. Katie brings up The Cat and the Canary, 1927. Film almost 100 years old.
Wow.
It's, you know, and it's a psycho killer. So that's sort of, you know, 100-year-old classic film, meaning that's an art house film.
Yes.
Fifth Hammer brings up Bug. I think this is is this a Tracy Let's Play?
It's Tracy Let's Play that was turned into a movie. Yeah.
Agnes, a lonely waitress living in an isolated and dilapidated roadside motel, meets Peter, a quiet and mysterious man with whom she establishes a peculiar relationship.
I appreciate that description because this movie is bonkers in the most Tracy Letts way, and you did a very good job of not spoiling anything about it.
Okay, great.
Let's just say no one is a good guy in that film.
Okay, so we also have Brave Crab brings us Possum from 2018. I'm really intrigued with this movie. This is a Matthew Holness directed this. He was the creator of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Okay.
But also, I don't think this is a comedy. Like Matthew Holness
Okay.
is a horror lover, a horror,
Oh, okay.
a horror aficionado. So this is a little bit like Jordan Peele doing horror, right?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
true comedian, but also
Yep.
very much loving horror movies. So this is a disgraced children's puppeteer returns to his childhood home and is forced to confront his wicked stepfather and the secrets that have tortured him his entire life.
Ooh.
The puppet work in this looks wild and spooky.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's done in puppets. But he's a puppeteer,
But
so
puppets are a theme. Yeah. That sounds fascinating.
If you search for the poster for Possum, it's one of the most intriguing posters I've ever seen. It's really gorgeous, really cool.
Nice.
Okay, Diamond Dogs brings up The Eyes of My Mother, 2016. Young girl witnesses a tragic event which makes her unable to develop connections with people when she grows up, but she desperately wants to. This is Eyes of My Mother. This is Almodovar. Is that Eyes of My
Nope.
Mother? No, okay.
Nope.
That's I just
No,
heard.
you're thinking.
I just heard of my mother, and I was like Almodovar.
Almodovar. It must be.
It's
mother
about
issues.
a mother. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. No, but this is Portuguese, English Portuguese. Actually.
Okay. Oh yes. Okay. Yes. Great. That looks beautiful. That looks really, really cool. Ganymede's Cop brings up one that I'm so stupid for not thinking of. Fritz Lang's M from 1931.
I can't believe I didn't think of that, but I think Jeffrey. Like, can we? I think M is the way to go.
Let me bring up the last one because this is also a good one.
Damn it! Oh,
I'm sorry, but let me just because I think this is a great suggestion, which is Cronenberg TA brings up Henry, Portrait of Serial Killer.
Yeah.
Absolute classic. I agree with you. The moment I saw M, Ganymede's Cup, great idea. I cannot believe we missed that on here.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we stay in black and white?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
it's
we
like,
want
and
to
arguably, like M is like if you're going to make a list of the top 5 best films,
not just
ever,
horror, but film.
Just film.
Yeah.
M is probably going to be on there.
Yeah, I absolutely think we have to watch M. There were some great ones on here. Like,
oh yeah,
honestly, Bug was that's an inspired choice. I really
Jeffrey, I don't know if I could sit through movie. Bug again.
Okay, great.
Sit through, like I might have to put the kibosh on that one.
I love Tracy
Cat
Letts.
The Canary sounds fat. Eyes of My Mother looks really fascinating.
Hard Candy and Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer also were really like those are really intriguing ones.
There's some of the like psycho killer movies are tough because they like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Hard Candy, even Man Bites Dog a little bit, like Bug. They get real dark.
Yeah.
Like hard to watch dark.
Yeah. Well, that was easy and great and fun. And thank you all for listening. Thank you to our contributors on Letterboxd, and thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. If you have thoughts on Onibaba or ideas for other movies that would have been good psycho killer meets art house horror, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or on Patreon, where we have a public discussion thread for each episode, which you do not have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch Fritz Lang's M from 1931 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no demons blocking your wheat field path to your booty call or nothing. Boo.
Boo.